Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's going to talk to you about water parks. Do you like water parks? Where's your favorite water park? Mine's in Seabreeze. It's a place near Rochester, New York. But the thing about water parks is, there's always the sort of twisting slides and the steep drops, but every water park also has the lazy river. That's just where you get in a tube, and you just slowly go around in kind of a circle. And if you're young or if you're full of energy, the lazy river is the last place you want to be. You don't want to be relaxing in the sun and feeling the current go. You want to be getting that huge adrenaline push. You want to get that feeling of gravity underneath you. You want the splashing and the eyes and the kids and the screaming and the noise. But lazy rivers are great. There's a reason that there's always a lazy river at a water park. And it's not just because they're easy to make, it's because people like them. So what does that have to do with The Great Escape, the new album by Larry June and The Alchemist? It's a lazy river. It's a lazy river, and rap music is a water park, okay? This is an album for just understanding the beauty of a lazy river, understanding the joy of going slow, of going smooth, of being very breezy, being very laid back. It can be underestimated, it can be overlooked, but a great lazy river is awesome. And this album by Larry June and The Alchemist is too. Now, it's a very West Coast album. Very, very West Coast. And in a way, it's almost West Coast in the way that some rock and roll music is very West Coast, to the point where me, as an East Coaster, I can find it actually hard to get behind. East Coasters, we like sharp lines. We like aggravation. We like the drops, right? We don't like chillin'. It's too cold to chill. You'll literally get chilly. God damn, that's a corny joke. I need scripts to avoid improvising corny jokes like that. Leave a thumbs up if you think that's a corny joke. We're too chilly to be chillin'. But I've also lived a lot of my life in California. I lived about a decade in California. I've come to love California in a certain way, and really it is a lot of those kind of softer edges, and you have to learn to appreciate them. So, we have Larry June, who's from the Bay Area. We have Alchemist, who, of course, is from Beverly Hills. He's from, get this, Beverly Hills. And I think that it's interesting to see the reaction to this album. Because I put forth, should I review this album? Should I review this album first or second? And I got a lot of people who were hating on this album. And particularly people who were commenting that Anthony Fantano, the needle drop, the undisputed king of music reviews, really disliked this album. And so I watched his review, and I found it interesting. Another YouTuber who I really like, who's a lot smaller than Anthony Fantano, Trill Tev R&R. I'll include a link to his stuff. He does reactions, unboxings, a lot of great work on underground hip-hop. If you like my work on underground hip-hop, I think you really need him along with me, because he does a lot, sort of that more reaction stuff, but he does it at a very high level. So I think it's funny because if we look at these reviews together, I think we get a pretty good view of the album. Fantano, for his part, took a lot of the strengths of the album and cited them as weaknesses, which is a totally fair thing to do. That's not ignorance, that's just not liking what an album is doing, and that's very clear what he did. Whereas Trill Tev, he's apparently from Stockton, California, kind of an interesting place in California, not the kind of place you visit, but I've been there. It's an interesting place. And what he really emphasizes is that this rap is for grown men, is for adults. And he really emphasizes the West Coast nature of it as well. Also, make sure you go and support Trill Tev, because he's having computer trouble making his videos, and I've been there. Man, when you're a content creator and your technology doesn't work, it's like the worst feeling. So maybe we can give him a little spike of his subscriptions, okay? from Professor Skye over here. So we kind of have these two reviews, and I think I acknowledge everything that Fantano's saying, particularly about the rhyme scheme, the rhyming not being that great. And even Trill Tev acknowledges that. But I'm not sure that's actually a weakness. That might just be part of the style. I think when we're looking at the reaction to this album, I think it's important to see it in the modern context. And when I mean modern, I mean like this week. Because JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown released an album, 2 weeks ago. And that's sort of the perfect counterpoint to this. They are both wonderfully constructed, wonderfully produced albums that show the vitality, the breadth of underground hip hop right now, but they're very opposite, because the Scaring the Hose is all edgy and noisy and avant-garde, and it's really there to scare the hoes, to scare the normies, to scare people who are afraid of music that's too in your face, man, you can't handle it, right? I love that album, by the way. I gave a great review to it. You've probably seen the video if you're watching this. It's a great album. But this is like the opposite. This album is as smooth as a baby bowling ball, as a freshly shaved baby bowling ball. Okay, I want you to imagine a baby bowling ball. I want you to imagine it freshly shaved. Now that you have that image in your head, that's how smooth this is. So maybe there's a kind of difficulty to appreciate both sides of this underground hip-hop movement. I can do it. I enjoy it very much because Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia, that's that vertical drop. That's that Waterloo, that Bill and Ted's crazy town, But you need the lazy river. So, okay, so we can admit that perhaps Larry June's greatest strength is not his lyrics. And it might not even be his flow. We are going to get to what his strengths are, but it's interesting. I think in particular he has the sort of laconic, the slow, the quiet flow. As I've been teaching this class about rap music, I teach a class at my college about rap music. I'm currently teaching it. Rakim, part of the reason Rakim is so important is he was basically the first guy to realize, hey, we don't need to yell. We're not in the Bronx at the community center. We don't need to scream into the microphone that I am the king of rock. We don't need to do any of that. We don't need to say wave your hands in the air. We have a microphone. We can use that. And since that time, rappers have played with yelling and rapping and talking. And this is very much in that lower range, that very relaxed lower range. And it's met perfectly by The Alchemist, the pen name of Alphonse Camistro, right? So The Alchemist here, how do we even start to describe what he's been doing? I think he deserves to be in the conversation with the RZA, and that sounds like I'm giving him way too much praise, but I don't think I am. Let me tell you why. When he makes these beats, they're all Alchemist beats. You can tell they're Alchemist beats, but he knows how to tailor them to the person who's rapping. That's RZA's greatest. RZA's greatest attribute is not that he invented like 5 different kinds of rap music. It's that when you listen to the Method Man album, and you listen to the Old Dirty Bastard album, and you listen to the Raekwon album, they all sound like RZA beats, and they all sound like beats that were made for these rappers. The Alchemist is running around underground hip-hop, like, here you go, Rock Marciano, this sounds like something you can rap on. Here you go, Larry June, this sounds like something you can rap on. He's managing to do all of that at the same time. Also, not for nothing, I'm in the process of creating my hip-hop lesson on whiteness in rap music. And I think The Alchemist is the best example of the positive influence that white society can have in rap music. Going back to Rick Rubin, being in the back, playing a support role, not taking center stage, not taking away the attention, just being there. So you can grow up in Beverly Hills. You could be the son of business people. I don't know what the Camistros did, but whatever it is, you generally don't grow up in Beverly Hills without a fair amount of affluence in your family. But taking that power that's granted to you by society, that's granted to you by all the mythical forces that exist, that create inequality in our society, and he is constantly using it to spotlight and help these artists in a way where, of course, he's getting fame because he's just so good, Hip-hop is a competition. It is, to a certain extent, a meritocracy, and you have people from Greenwich, Connecticut, like Kenny Beats and Alchemist here, just making stuff so good, it doesn't matter that they're not from the hood, right? But that they're actually showing this ability to use whatever power they have, whatever access they have, whatever led them in their life to allow themselves to take the time to develop their craft and do it without trying to take over. it's just a nice thing. There's not enough people on YouTube talking about positive trends in racism in America. And I think hip hop is a great example of how things can go, right? Where someone is there and they're not taking everything away. But that doesn't have to do with this album. This album is not about race. What is this album about? Like, seriously. You can tell me in the comments. Before I even say it, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. New merch coming in the next couple months. So these mugs are going to be going away if you want to get them. Subscribe, all that. One of my least favorite things, there's a bakery near me. It's a great bakery, but they have on the wall, it isn't just the ingredients we use, it's the ingredients we don't. I hate that. I hate that kind of stuff. It's just too pretentious, and it usually leads into saying they don't use GMOs. And of course, GMOs save millions of lives. If you're against GMOs, you are for poor people dying. Just so you know, feel free to tell me in the comments if you think I'm wrong. I'm not. I don't like that kind of snobbery. But this album, Larry June's lyricism, it's not just about what he raps about, it's what he doesn't. He does talk about wealth, but he's not doing it in a specific kind of flashy way that you've seen. He talks about crime, but he's not glamorizing crime. He talks about women, but he doesn't glamorize sleeping with lots of women. You're like, what are you talking about? Like, mostly what he talks about is this sense of like a kind of true luxury. In a way, I think this fits really well with Call Me If You Get Lost by Tyler, the Creator, where Tyler, the Creator is trying to reframe how rappers talk about luxury. Now, he talks about it in terms of travel, in terms of seeing the world, in terms of making yourself a better person, in the world and traveling and seeing things and expanding your horizons. Where here we have Larry June, and this is, by the way, my first Larry June project. I haven't heard any of his 78 mixtapes. This is my introduction. This is the power of the Alchemist. This is how the Alchemist uses his power to force normies like me to discover this Bay Area artist, to make me realize there's somebody other than E40. I love E40 so much. It's hard to believe that anybody can exist in that space. Anyways. But it's about like property ownership. It's about passive income. It's not about owning Lambos. It's about owning vintage Porsches. I think this album cover behind me, you see, is a great example of like what this album is about. This is a very tasteful picture of somebody driving an old vintage car, the kind of car that you have to know about cars to know why it's cool. Lamborghini fetishes are just about, it's worth a lot, that's why it's worth it to me. This shows a certain amount of taste, of refinement. Of course, there's the Golden Gate Bridge in the back. We have a watch here that's like, I don't know, is that busted down? Is that a busted down watch to you? Is that bling bling? This is luxury without bling. And that's what Larry June is showing. And even the style is very similar to like California tourism posters of the post-war era. I mean, it's such a well-done image. It reminds you, it's very evocative of even like like if you go to the Peterson Automobile Museum in LA, they have all these posters for like the Monaco Grand Prix. This feels like it could fit in there. Except, of course, it's very clearly a black hand and not a white hand, sort of inversing what we associate with this kind of taste and wealth, what's been blocked behind generations upon generations of passed on wealth to people who didn't earn it or deserve it. Here we have a turn on that, and just the colors. It's an absolutely beautiful album cover, and it is a reflection of the album itself. Like, this really is the album. The only thing that I'm a little bit afraid of, and I don't know what to say about this, but there's like a subset. Okay, there's a bunch of people on the internet, right? And they're really into the Grindset, just working hard, making money, and having like whatever aspiration boards, and just really grinding and grinding and grinding. And it's a weird sort of cultish thought. It's a cultish thought bubble where a whole bunch of young, almost always men, see themselves as being heroic for depriving themselves of basic joys of life and working out ways to figure out how to be rich without having to work a 9 to 5. Makami in his most recent album included a huge quote from Gary Vee. Gary Vee is very emblematic of this kind of mindset. And I'm of two minds, I mean, it's not like supporting Gary Vee is actually worse than supporting the crack trade, okay? I mean, Gary Vee does harm, but he doesn't do the same kind of harm as a crack dealer, But still, it's interesting. It's a sort of development. The correlation between rap music and Republican or right-wing values has been very close, since Eazy-E had lunch with George Bush. Even before then, the values of free market capitalism are essential to the values of hip hop music, especially mainstream hip hop music, going back almost 50 years. But this does show a kind of evolution of that. And I don't know if it's good or bad. You can tell me. So let's start with the stamp. Whenever possible, I like the stamp to be the first track. So click above the banana, above the bananas, above the tangerines, above my first edition copy of East of Eden by John Steinbeck. More about him in a second. It starts right off, first of all, even just the name Turkish Cotton, that shows the kind of luxury that he's talking about here. True luxury is not silk sheets. True luxury is Turkish cotton, is having stuff that doesn't look flashy. But it's interesting because my wife just told me about this article she read about Succession, the TV show, and how everybody dresses in a very muted way. And there's a way of dressing, and I can spot these people. It's like the truly rich people, like the people that are just like shut up, stupid rich, the system is completely broken rich, they don't dress flashy. They dress in a muted way with a level of detail and sort of comfort and fit that is perceptible, but is not perceptible to people who are just rich. Is not perceptible to people who are trying to be flashy and wear Gucci and big logos, So in a way, just starting off with Turkish Cotton lets you know that's where we're going to be. It starts off with rain and atmosphere, the sound of a car speeding, but this isn't a Lamborghini, this is probably a vintage Porsche. And then just what a beat, I don't know Alchemist, I don't know what he does, I don't know what he does. I do not know. But it's sort of like if Isaac Hayes, this album is like if Isaac Hayes were a hip-hop producer, this is what he would come up with. Horn and brass, and the drums are just in this pocket. I love the ad-libs of Larry June. It works perfectly. Starts off right here. Bend a corner, I'm on Hay Street, copping a windbreaker, details, spent $500 for the salt shaker. I don't know what a salt shaker means. I don't know. I do know Hay Street in San Francisco. San Francisco is a rough place. San Francisco, it really sucks. I really hate that city. I'm sorry to say. But the reason that I hate it is because, it's so expensive, but the life there isn't very good. The traffic is very uncomfortable. The streets are not very well made. It's just a very tough... I lived in Oakland, so maybe it's just that I have that natural... competition there, but it's a really tough place, and you'll just find yourself on the wrong street. You think that you're in a safe part of town, and then you end up in the wrong part of the town, and things are super uncomfortable, and it's a very uncomfortable place. And to be so uncomfortable and to be so expensive at the same time, if when I drive through San Francisco, I feel worse than I do when I drive through the bad parts of Buffalo. But Buffalo, you can buy a house for $150,000 all day, every day. San Francisco, you can't buy a house for $2 million. Anyways, what I love about this is bend a corner, and he talks about details. So he starts off talking about the stitching on the Porsche that he's driving, the 911 that he's driving. And then here he's talking about Hay Street. So the details have two different levels. He may be a better rapper than we're giving him credit for because he's just so mellow. Right? Different kinds of details. Hay Street and the detail on the leather. The horns get kind of warbledy at some point. They sound like they're going to stop, but he's just keep going, which I love. Got a couple hustles on the side, passive income. Can't just put all your eggs in just one, you hear me? It's funny because my brother talked to me about this channel. He's like, Skye, you got to stop calling it a hobby. It's not a hobby. It's a side hustle. And it is true. I do make some income on this channel. Not enough to quit my job. Not enough to even come close to quitting my job. But I do make some. So it does fit the idea of a side hustle, but I don't buy into the Grindset. So to me, it's still just a hobby, you know, but it's interesting. He actually edits out saying the word hoe, or the B word. I don't know. It's interesting. You know, like, this is one of the most respectful albums towards women that you've ever heard in rap music, but it's not like trying to be, you know? James Bond coupe with the ceramic brakes, out the way eating not these crumpets, but it's sad to say. Crumpets, that's rich. Start a corporation and bet on yourself every time. Put them on a payroll and make sure your tax is right. You know, Kendrick Lamar released that song about Wesley Snipes. Paying taxes is ridiculously important. It's a fair thing to say that the U.S. government has capitalized on the fact that when poor people get money, they don't know what to do with it, and they can punish them and take their money. I don't know. And then there's this point where he says, Alchemist, what's happening? And then, hey, Alfonso Chimisto, what, you thought I didn't notice? You think we're not noticing at the very end after he says, Alchemist, what's happening? There's these two notes on a synthesizer, and I hear these two notes, and I imagine an extended version, and I extended another beat. I imagine an entire outro. I imagine a whole Alchemist reverie just going off, but you stopped it. He stopped it. Why did he stop it there? Man, it's awesome. Next track is called 89 Earthquake. I lived in America during the 89 earthquake. I was watching the World Series when it happened. It was scary. The scariest thing about the 1989 earthquake is the Bay Bridge. So there's a bunch of bridges in California. The one that's famous is the Golden Gate Bridge. Whatever happened to predictability? That's the most famous one. The most important one is the Bay Bridge. That's what connects Oakland to what I call the West Bay. That's San Francisco. The thing collapsed and people fell into the goddamn bay during the earthquake. Do you know how scary that is? Do you know how scary it is to have that image and then move to California? Oh, by the way, I moved to California in late September of 2001. I moved right after September 11th to San Francisco. And to Oakland. My brother lived in San Francisco, so I used to take that Bay Bridge multiple times, and I had the image of a terrorist blowing up the bridge and me going in. Every single time I'd make it to the other side, or I'd make it to that there's a little Yerba Buena, there's this little island in between that kind of separates the two. I would just be like, oh, thank God I'm on. But it's not like the government made it more freaky for me. It's not like they didn't have Apache helicopters circling around the Bay Bridge 24 hours a day. Man, it's messed up. Anyways, that's a story. Has nothing to do with this rap, but it does have to do with how terrifying the earthquake was. Cool, kind of jittery piano, some horn hits here. He has sort of almost an E40-like rhyme run here where he just says man a bunch. And he has a different flow. He has a different flow on here. He does mess around with his flow. He does have good flow. He's just so subtle. He's so subtle that it's all in the details. It's like a fine car, right? It's like a suit on Succession. You can't tell that it's a $60,000 suit. Come on! But if you actually know, then you know. I ain't taking no days off. I need meal tickets. Please no shoes in my loft. I'm not a dirty drinking juice in the morning. Calculate a hun. Wonder how we did it. I came from the slums. Had to put my grind in it. I ain't stopped for none. Again, more of that sort of Grindset rapping. I do like the idea of taking off your shoes in the loft. Drinking juice though. Don't drink juice, man. Just empty calories. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for you. Talks about writing things off on taxes. That's back-to-back songs about taxes. He starts singing at the end of the chorus. It's quite nice. Then a seagull. Then we get to Solid Plan. Some cool, funky synthesizers. Real Republican raps here. Stop complaining. Go hard instead. Invest in yourself. F what they said. You can accomplish anything with a solid plan. And if you just enroll in Professor Skye University, I can teach you how to make your investment double, triple in 30 days' time, in 60 days' time. That's fine. That's fine. Grindset, that's fine. Then we get to Action Bronson's verse. God damn it. Action Bronson. Sunk in the Seat, Sopranos Season 3. Your B-word don't even know how to season meat. I played this for my wife because she likes Action Bronson a lot. There's sort of a Balkan connection there, and she was like, "Oh, is seasoning meat like a sexual innuendo?" I'm like, "No." No, this is like actually about the value of being with a woman who knows how to season meat, which is, you know, it is a nice thing. If you're with a man should know how to. I need to learn how to season meat better. This better not be a sex thing. But I am going to. This is my promise to you. I am going to learn how to better season meat. I'm going to ask my wife so that she can also have a bitch who knows how to season meat. Me. But it's great because that's what we're talking about. True luxury. True luxury is not going out and sleeping with a bunch of women and getting all the popping off the champagne in the club. It's like eating well-seasoned meat. And then he makes reference to a Curb Your Enthusiasm moment where somebody hid a baseball in what they referred to as their big pussy, a Mickey Mantle autographed baseball. And then he makes reference to the 1952 Mickey Mantle rookie, the most famous baseball card in the world. Mickey Mantle looking like this over there. Beautiful card that's haunted my days. The only card that I lusted after more than that was that goddamn Don Mattingly mustacheless Donruss 1984 card. That's a real if you know, you know kind of stuff. I hate the Yankees, so I never had either of them. But, you know, it's this real reference. And then he talks about the fate of the character, Big Pussy, from the TV show Sopranos. So he's going on a weird sort of stream of conscious connection run with HBO shows. That's Action Bronson for you. Palisades, California is the next song. Palisades is a nice coastal town in California. Cool kind of funky wah-wah guitar, slow drums behind. It's like property and coastline and gated communities and betting on yourself constantly. Big Sean comes on here and he just absolutely kills it. I mean, one thing that Fantano said was that all of the guest rappers outshone Larry June. And that may be true, but it's like, is it okay to be a rapper if your goal is not to kill everybody? I mean, Big Sean's on here. You can't help but think about the Control verse, you know? I don't think Larry June's goal is to kill everybody and make your core fans forget about you. I don't think it's that. I think Larry June's just like, this is some of my income. I'm going to start an orange orchard. I don't know why Skye's doing a Morgan Freeman impersonation, right? But, I mean, Big Sean, like, references fish oils and getting richer. Just, he's really in the themes. Like, he's in the themes of Larry June. He's able to meet Larry June themes. And then he even switches a flow in a quite interesting way. Then we get to Summer Rain, featuring Ty Dolla $ign. And, you know, I was listening to, my daughter actually helped me come up with the Lazy River theory because we were listening to the song, and she said how, listening to this album, and she's like, yeah, this album's just like floating along. Like, that's how she described it. And she also really emphasized this is a good summer album. That was before she heard this. And can we please thank The Alchemist and Larry June for releasing a summer album in the spring? How many rap and R&B artists in the last couple of years release the summer albums in the summer or in the fall? I'm looking at you, Drake. Looking at you, Beyonce. God. How are you going to say you're a boss if you don't handle biz? Real men stay on 10, take care of their kids. Great. You know, if his whole thing is about passive income and buying property, that's probably better. That's definitely better than buying Rolexes and buying Bugattis, you know. And if he throws into it the sense of taking care of your kids, why not? The outro, I think you hear a snare for the first time. Bought real estate before a Bentley. I was a millionaire before the record deal. Also just talking about, you know, part of what makes underground rap so great. And again, I know it's weird, but I've got whiteness and hip hop on the mind, okay? So if this offends you, I'm sorry, but it's interesting. Because underground hip hop is a lot of ways, it's a very white space. I mean, it's just a numbers question, right? There's just a lot more white Americans than anyone else. That's why it's a majority, not a minority, right? And so our purchase, you know, the fact that we buy music is very important for the livelihood of artists. I think that the robustness of the underground scene is partly due to the fact that there are so many people like me, you know, who are really invested in this music and really supporting it you know, and really emphasizing the artistry of it and really loving the artistry of it. And I think that's how artists can become millionaires without a record deal. I don't know if that was possible 30 years ago. I don't think there was enough middle-aged white dudes or college-age white dudes to support this kind of stuff. I mean, I remember 2000 going to was it Biscuit Head Records in Boston, you know? And like, man, yeah, underground hip hop got some support, but not like it does now. Really not. So, anyways, keep it up, underground hip hop. If you're white and watching this, keep buying hip hop. It's not solving anything, but it's helping some individuals. So, what the hey? I don't think I could have canceled myself with that. I might have. This is the problem, is I improvise a lot of my videos. So I just kind of talk off the top of my head. So here's the deal. If I said something problematic, guess what you get to do? You get to tell me in the comments, and I'm not even going to be defensive. I'm going to say, hey, good point. I might even pin you so that other people can see that we're having a dialogue here, you know? Ty Dolla $ign is always good when he's a guest appearance. He is never not good. Ty Dolla $ign has never not made a song better when he's appeared on it if it's someone else's song. Just beautiful. There's some chimes in here. I hate chimes. I forgive them here. Next song, Orange Village. Almost like an 80s horror sound, like these keyboard bell sounds, almost vaporwavy. And then it slows down. And then I'm still talking to you, Mr. Chemisto. How the hell did you get this sound? The kick drum, just, maybe you didn't notice, maybe you've listened to this album 100 times. Listen to the kick drum. Listen to the fact that Alchemist is making these beats. These are not sampled 70s soul beats. And there's this trick, just listen to the kick drum, where it does a double up sometimes and it does a single other times and it gets cut off sometimes. So listen to the song and just, with your right hand, your index finger, try to tap out the bass drums, and you're going to notice the subtlety, the way that it changes. This big booming bass drum, but sometimes it's doom, 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 and sometimes it cuts out, and then sometimes it's doom, 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 doom. It's just great. Super chill rapping, talks about going to Monterey. I told you I'd bring up John Steinbeck. Monterey, Salinas. All California stuff. Slum Village comes in. I don't know this rapper, so tell me about what I'm missing. He's great. More energetic, talking about traffic. Makes a very deep cut He-Man reference. Man at Arms, Master of the Universe. We played with the same kids as toys. We played with the same toys as kids. Although my favorite Master of the Universe is Stinkor. Porsches in Spanish. This is interesting. It's almost a crime tale, but it's hard to pick up what it is. He makes reference to Jorge, who we have to assume is a plug, you know, someone who's providing him drugs. He makes references to being in the cocaine trade, but very elliptically, like very unclear exactly what he did. And I don't think it really matters, you know. I was reading about his biography, and apparently he was discovered at Rasputin Records. And if you've ever been to California, that's like the most California thing you could be. It's discovered. That's the most Northern California thing you could be. Because, I mean, there's Amoeba Records, which is realistically probably a better record store. But Rasputin is kind of the hipster record store in the Bay Area. That's how cool the Bay Area is. They have multiple record chains that are successful. So the fact that he got, like, discovered at Rasputin, you know. So when I think of him, I don't think of him trapping. I think of him as, like, just working as a rapper and being a small-time landlord, you know. But still, I like that here. And again, his lyrics are just not super noticeable. He did make reference to a place I've been. I'm looking in Tiburon, doing walkthroughs with contractors, making sure my Porsche don't scrape the parking spot. So this is amazing. Tiburon is one of the richest suburbs in America. It's in Marin County. My friend Dave lived in Tiburon. And it's interesting because he lived in an apartment above an Italian restaurant. So, like, he was, like, living as one of the poorer people in a very rich place. So it's just interesting because, I mean, who the hell talks about Tiburon, right? I mean, it's not like even like Greenwich Village or Beverly Hills. It's a place of wealth that's so wealthy people don't even know about it. It's a place where you go there on a Saturday morning And 99% of people are wearing spandex and those little shoes when you go biking. They go click clack click clack click clack, and they're going to have brunch with their investment banker and lawyer friends, right? So like him talking about wealth is like you have to actually understand wealth at a certain level to understand the level of wealth you have to be talking about to be doing contracting in Tiburon. That is ridiculous. I actually don't even buy it. Like, you have to be so wealthy to be doing contracting in Tiburon. Yeah, it's cool. Art Talk with Boldy James. Again, more kind of Isaac Hayes style beats. He screws up here though. He talks about 5-star Michelin meals. Michelin doesn't give more than 3 stars. So, I hate to be that guy. But I'm a French professor. The one thing I'm going to know about is fancy ass restaurants and my damn croissants. So like, come on, man. Come on, you look like new money. You can't be talking about Tiburon doing walkthroughs and then say I eat at a 5-star Michelin restaurant. But whatever, it's okay. Hey, he has a triplet style here too. He changes up his flow, but he's just so mellow you don't even notice it. Boldy James pops on. It's fun because he's also a super laconic rapper. Having them together, it's nice. Ocean Sounds is the gentle guitar and singing. Guitar goes up high, meets the bass. It's a song all about real love. And this is that other thing about luxury, Like, it's like he's talking about real luxury, but he's also talking about the real value, the real worth of being with women is not actually using their bodies and saying terrible things about it. It's finding a love and connection. And this is a song about love and connection. So this guy appears to know what matters in life. And that's what he talks about. And then he also talks about wealth. Left No Evidence, steady beat, anchors, this weird sort of trilling piano, electronic, it sounds like there's electric guitar, it's not plugged in. Evidence opens, has kind of this high verse. Dirty game, but I'm an optimist. When they say it's all the same, I say the opposite. It's interesting. Optimistic rap verse. What Happened to the World is the worst track on the album. I don't like it. I don't like the sitar sounds. Hey, rap producers, just leave sitars alone. And I'm even going to say it, St. Vincent, it's awesome that you can play sitar, but sitar doesn't sound good outside of Indian music. I don't think. I'm even including you, George Harrison. You did your best. But I mean, you listen to like real Indian music, sitar is a gorgeous instrument. But too often when it's played in pop music, and I'm including rap music, it's like they're playing it like it's a guitar. Anyways, oddly hot take here. What happened to the? So then we get to éxito, which means success in Spanish. Remember I talked to you about San Francisco? Part of the reason I hate San Francisco is I used to go in every Saturday for Spanish lessons at this like adult education place, and it was off Market Street, and Market Street is this main street in San Francisco, and it's like the worst street. The only street that comes as close to being as bad as that is like Mass Ave in Allston in Massachusetts. It's just like Market Street is impossible. It's like trolleys and cars and one-way streets and like just hordes of like tech bros and hordes of homeless people who are kicked out of the insane asylum by Ronald 666 Reagan back in the 80s. All of society's ills from the top to the bottom, all there, and you're trying to cross. And so I would go take the Spanish lessons with this woman who very often came in smelling of alcohol and cocaine. She's making a documentary about open relationships. Very weird situation. So that was my main connection to San Francisco. I had to go in, I had to cross that Bay Bridge to go take these Spanish lessons. And that's where I learned that the word éxito means success. This is with Jay Worthy, who raps in a very similar way. Subtle kind of attack that he has here. I like how the hi-hat is just the quarter notes and these horns kind of grow. Again, it's sort of, it's hard because the Alchemist beats are so good, but you do have to pay attention to really pick up on some of these details. Took a right on the PCH and hit the ocean. Very funny. Pacific Coast Highway. Super LA. 60 Days is sort of a missed opportunity because it seems like it's going to be a song about what happens over the span of 60 days, but then it abandons that principle. Alchemist actually rhymes on here. He's quite good. And then it leads to Barragan Lighting, which is apparently a Mexican artist's style. I didn't know this. I studied art history, but I don't know this. So Larry June shows some real taste here, right? Insane beat here, like the swirling flute and these popping sounds. And this is a good argument for his lyrical ability. We eat Maine, eating lobster, and it's fresh off the dock. I'm like cocaine, fresh out the pot. Hold on, let that dry. Y'all worried about being validated. I just made another play and pulled it off the yacht. This shows the problem, like the rhyming isn't that strong, but the themes, the images are quite nice. Joey Badass comes on, and he does a crazy thing. A crazy thing. He has this rhyme run where he mixes the sound and the am sound. And in the center of it is the word Vietnam. And he could have pivoted to go exclusively on the am side by pronouncing it Vietnam, and it would have worked. I'll explain to you. Don't mean no harm, kiss the ring and bless the dawn, microphone in my hand, like a napalm in my palm. If you put me in the jam, turn this bitch to Vietnam. So the hand could have been hand, jam, Vietnam. And then he could have gone on a different, he could have that sort of way that, Biggie would do this a lot, where he'd sort of like chain together rhymes. And like the rhyme from up here gets picked up down there. And then the rhyme from there gets picked up down here. The sort of like interlocking rhyme schemes here. But he doesn't quite do that, because then he goes, catch me under the palm trees, chilling somewhere in San Juan. So, palm. So it ends up being palm, Juan, nom, palm, but the hand and the jam are in the middle of it there, and I can't help but hear jam. It's great. Currency's on there too, but he's not quite up to par with the other two rappers here. Album ends with Margie's Candy House, most jazzy, loungy beat. Again, more Isaac Hayes-y. It's his story about coming up. Again, very vague street stories. Realtons never quit. Realtons play the game, but got goals to go legit. I love this idea that he's talking about, that the goal is to go legit. He talks about trafficking. He says, I don't glamorize it, though. I was praying for a change. Really emphasizing that the street things that people talk about are the things that want to be avoided. The goal in life should be to be happy, be in love, have human connections. And if you're lucky enough to pursue a life of creativity, make sure that you pay your taxes and have enough income in other ways that it doesn't matter if you get a cosign by The Alchemist. These are my Patreons. I think I might buy this album. They might give me the money to buy this album. The Alchemist always has such great drops, He just does. And this is no exception. So thank you to all these people. And thank you for a summer album. Well, until next time. Oh, apparently Larry June owns an orchard, an orange orchard, which is like, that's cool. That's the coolest side hustle of any rapper ever. Here's your camera.